Evening and welcome to the Lower Makefield Township Park and Recreation Board meeting in February 2022. Our first agenda item is a call to order, and which we just did. So followed by a roll call. With me here in the Township building are members Rob Labar, Michael Brody, and Dave Malinowski. On the line virtually is Dennis Wasaki, Mike Blundy, Kim Rock. We also have Board of Supervisor Chairman James McCartney on virtual, and with us is our Monica Tini, our Park and Rec Director. Thank you all for coming. First order of business will be the approval of the November 9th, 2021 meeting minutes. Anybody have any comments or changes to the meeting minutes? Will they be approved? We have a motion to approve the meeting minutes. Do we have a second? Rob seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Mike Brody abstains. I wasn't at the meeting.
Mike Brody abstains. All right, thank you. Next order of business, we're going to skip the January. They're not agenda minutes. They're not prepared yet. And then item number 4, Girl Scout Silver Project. She is on her way here, so we're gonna move her behind Ann Toole. So we're gonna let Ann give us an update on the needs assessment findings to date. And hi, Ann, thank you for joining us tonight. We have a full board tonight, so you get all of us here to hear your assessment and next steps for the project.
Great. Thank you, everybody. I want to start out by thanking everyone for spending time talking with me. What you had to say mattered. It was very helpful. I have a few more people that I need to speak with. Dave, you're one, and I don't remember the other person. Is there another one that wants to talk with me that I haven't yet spoken with?
Yeah, Rob Labar, I haven't spoken with you.
Rob, that was it. Monica, that's what you said. Okay, thanks. All right, so Rob and Dave, I'll schedule a time with you. I'll send you an email and you could let me know what's convenient for you and we can talk. So thanks, everybody. Now, what I would like to do is share my screen so we could go through what our findings are. So I'm going to do that. There we go. We good?
We can see it here in the building. I assume everybody virtually can see the presentation as well.
Okay. So this is our wonderful team of the Board of Supervisors and the Parks and Recreation Board. What I love about this project is the political will and support for doing it. It really matters. And Kurt and Monica have been rocking on this, and Jim in planning has been a great help. He's been providing us with the mapping. He's been wonderful. So you all know the purpose of this. We've got to figure out what the priorities are in the community based upon what our outreach is telling us and our research in the field. We've been doing field work, looking at all of your reporting. Monica has done extensive work on policies, administrative procedures, the rules and regulations. So financing, budget, all of that plays in. So what we know is that recreation, parks, and open space are an investment, not a cost. For every dollar that Lower Makefield puts into Parks and Recreation about another $1.42 gets spent in the community. I'm actually finishing a book that I'm writing now on return on investment that documents the social, recreational, health and wellness, community cohesion, and economic benefits. And in all those areas, all the economists, when they crunch their numbers, show that it's recreation, parks, open space, and trails are a significant benefit to the community. So I know that you sit on the Parks and Recreation Board, but I would just like to take a step back here because sometimes we forget about what we really do. And when you look at this list of what we maintain and what we provide, it is very significant. You have a relatively small staff. My hat is off to them in how much they provide at a very high quality. And that comes out in the survey findings that you will see as part of this PowerPoint. So you have a lot of parkland to take care of, lots of bike paths. The programming is extensive. That there are partnerships with community sports. There's something going on year round, from very active recreation to the more serene places like 5 Mile Woods where you can connect with nature. So we have 23.5 acres of publicly owned land per 1,000 residents, which exceeds what has been Pennsylvania's traditional expected standard of about 10.5 acres at a minimum. But that standard is old. It was crafted before sports were year round, before soccer took off, before girls played sports. That's a really old one. So we think that you're spot on with what you have in terms of a benchmark. But when we look at what we really need, we ought to consider what additional land we might need. So about 50, yes.
And I don't know if you
Sure.
want to take questions from.
Yeah, go
either
ahead.
As they slide or if there's a point in time when you want to stop. But I did have a
Sure.
question regarding the stat that you have the slide up there. Do you know how we compare relative to our, I guess, Bucks County peers?
In
Or what's
staff,
considered best in class within the state? No, the 23.5 acres per.
the 23.5, how do you compare?
Like, I don't, again, as we start to look at how we frame this up as what we'd like to go do and how do we as a township compare to our neighboring municipalities and/or what a best-in-class municipality has relative to what we have, so that somebody might see what we aspire to.
Okay, that's a really good question. Like kind of a best in class answer, we have to travel to another state, Maryland. Maryland's equivalent of DCNR expects a standard of 30 acres per 1,000 minimum for parks and open space. And I think that standard really works. If we translate it, I could think of some projects that I've done recently, but we will benchmark in the plan, in answer to your question, in Bucks County, particularly our surrounding municipalities like Newtown and Upper Makefield, to see what they have. But I could think of one right off the top of my head, Upper Dublin, which is a premier system. I know Monica's familiar with it. They have about 38 acres per 1,000. They have a lot of parkland. And part of your parkland includes the golf course. So most municipalities do not have a municipal golf course. So there are things about this standard that we would need to convey, that you would need to consider. What does that really mean? I think we said Makefield Highlands is 195 acres. That's a big chunk of your parkland. So if you take that theoretically out of the volume of parkland that you have for general public recreation, that will cut your standard, your ratio down a bit. We also
Yeah,
look.
long as you do the apples and apples, like if you compared it to Langhorne or anybody else that's got golf courses that take up, as long as you strip any out that aren't accessible to the general public, yeah, that would make sense.
Okay, that's what we'll do. I'm glad you raised that point. Thank you. Okay, so on the benchmarking, 15.3% of the land, that's generally, I'll do some number crunching on that with the comparisons, but that's kind of low for a suburban community. I know developed New York City is at least double that, surprisingly. So we'll look at that, how much of your area is an open space. And why that's important to Lower Makefield Township is that open space and parks are very important even to those who don't use them, that people who don't use them directly, but they drive by them, they add to the property value, they reduce crime, that all that really plays in, not just to the people that are out and about in your parks. So that percentage of your township that's open space is important. It contributes to the rural character of the community that people love. They love the rural character. So that's an important statistic too. So we'll benchmark that as well. So this is what we have.
And
yes.
Dennis Wasaki has his hand up.
Oh, sorry. Go for it, Dennis.
Yeah, and that last slide you were on, I don't understand what that second bullet means. What is that? 15.3%.
Oh, if you take the whole land area, if you look at a map of your township,
Yeah.
15% of that is in federal, county, state, and township owned land, which is mainly open space. So all those entities, when we look at all the lands that they own in your community, they total 15% of your land area.
Okay. So it's not counting, like private property is not included there.
No,
Okay.
no,
Got it.
no.
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good question. So when we look at all of this that we have on the map, and Jim has provided this for us, this map, all the bright green, it shows your facilities for recreation and open space. And on the left in that column, they're the big hallmarks of your parks and recreation system. So you could see they're pretty well distributed through the community. Down here, we have this area right in here that's pretty heavily developed. There's some smaller pieces of property in there, but pretty much you're way out there. I'm a very passionate lover of the Delaware River, and I was wishing with this border that we have here, how can we access this? Like, we're a riverfront community, but we can't get to the river. I'm kind of disappointed about that. Anybody has any thoughts on that? I'd love to hear. So the next one is your bike pass system. You have 25 miles of bike pass in place. And I might have mentioned this to you before, but I think that stacks up really high among all of Bucks County's municipalities. That's a lot of bike pass. There's a few more in place that are critical to the system as a whole, but what we're missing are some difficult connections. So that's something that we need to work on to get a whole safe, connected system for people to walk and ride their bikes. We're finding in the survey that that really is a priority. And it's one of your most challenging things. When you have a community, you could see the level of development in the parcels here. That once you have that, if the trails aren't in place, it is tough to get those connections. We have done this before. We did a bike path, we did a pedestrian and bicycle plan for the city of Allentown. And our worst connection, it was a terribly dangerous intersection. We knew that our congressman liked to run, and he ran through that intersection on his daily runs. And we talked with him and we got funding. We got funding to make that intersection safe and to make a major connection. Now, why I give you that example is that with the federal funding that's out there now on infrastructure, transportation has a big part of that funding. And in the transportation funding is a lot of money for bike paths. So now would be the time to start trying to figure out what are we going to really go after here to make those connections. So Monica and I have been talking about this and talking with Jim to figure out, well, what is exactly the next step in deciding what the township priorities are for connecting the bike path system. What you have is awesome. So I did speak with a lot of cyclists in all my outreach, so that was nice to hear. And this is a map of open space with the township on its side, with the river on the top. All of the dark blue is township property, like where my cursor is, that dark blue, that's all township owned property. What's important about this map is the bright green. These are the vulnerable parcels. These are the parcels that could be developed. You have about 1,100 acres of vulnerable open space. This was one of my first surprises on this project. I never dreamed that you had that much left. I thought it was pretty much all spoken for. But you can see there's, especially around 95, there's the farms that we know. We have, of course, we have Snipes. We have the Patterson tract, the section of it that's 41 acres. So we already own some of the land, but these acres are vulnerable to development and would be available for protection in some way, either through acquisition, partnerships, conservation easements, donations and bargain sales, which is probably unlikely, but what we have found in other communities is that owners of large properties like this in developed areas do at times want to see their land preserved, or they don't want to cash out to a developer necessarily. An example in a current project that I have, you could actually Google this. It's called Craybilly Farm, Creybilly Farm. It is by a stone's throw from Longwood Gardens in Westtown Township. We did their original plan, I think about 2014 or 2015. It was around 2014. And our top recommendation was the preservation of Craybilly Farm, and everybody just kind of laughed at that recommendation. And for all the years since, it's been in litigation, owned by Toll Brothers. And about a month ago, it was preserved. The township got Natural Lands as a partner, and the landowner, who had gone through numerous legal procedures, decided in the end that they would rather preserve their land. And so it is going to be sold. I mean, they're definitely getting cash for it, but that is pretty, you would be familiar with how difficult it is to have a Toll Brothers owned property preserved. So it does happen. There's one more property here. This big white space here is the former Grey Nun Academy, now owned by Holy Redeemer Hospital, with their development plans kind of on hold, I guess. Okay.
How many acres, Ann, is that Holy Redeemer site?
88.5. There are buildings on it. There are buildings on that site, and there are outdoor recreation facilities as well. So we have more than land and facilities, although that is a primary focus of our plan. We have nature. You'll see in the survey, people really want to be able to connect to nature. Since Monica came on, the programming has really zoomed. People love your programs and are asking for more. They are very high quality. So the programs and services are of vital importance to your community. We're looking at more than traditionally designed parks or for kids and sports in nice weather. We're looking at a premier system year-round for people of all ages, abilities, and interests, and supporting what we have in terms of the sports leagues is key. Lower Makefield Township would never be able to afford to provide the services that your organized sports leagues provide. So that partnership is very important. There's a lot of benefits throughout the community. And all of these things combined build a strong sense of community in Lower Makefield Township. As a residential bedroom suburban community, you don't have a main street. Kind of Yardley might be your main street, but you don't have that. What you do have is your parks and your community center, your pool, your golf course. They're all your main street. So that's where neighbors meet neighbors, where you find new friends and you bring your family and your guests from out of town. That's what community is all about in Lower Makefield. Taking care of what we have is a resounding theme in this plan. We hear that over and over, and we know this to be true, that it's a lot easier to get grant money and local money to build something new and have a ribbon cutting for a shiny new park. But once the ribbon's cut, taking care of it is really hard. It's very difficult to get the support for the staff, for the equipment, for the materials that it takes to take care of a park at the, especially at the degree that you in Lower Makefield would come to expect, that a community of this caliber would expect to have 5-star facilities. We know that for every $1 it takes you to develop a park, it costs another $4 to maintain it over its lifetime. So the township doesn't do these things alone. That's why some of your partnerships are really remarkable. With the sports groups, I know 5 Mile Woods with the caretaker, where Monica and her staff found a new possibility today with a local hospital, Holy Redeemer, and Monica and I met with your new park superintendent, Dr. Smith, who absolutely rocks in terms of his willingness and desire to partner on looking at things that we find as community needs in common. Primarily in that conversation, middle schoolers and tweens up to the driving age, non-organized sports kids, the kids who like music, drama, tech, all those kinds of things. So we're looking at that as a new partnership. Monica also reached out to the surrounding municipalities in the school district, and we're going to have a conversation on how we could all work together. we may even be able to get some grant funding to facilitate that discussion and move ahead. If we're able to do multi-municipal collaboration, you get more bang for the buck on that. You get all because of the shared costs and the great services that are generated from that. So what the public's saying, the facilities are good to excellent, the programs are good to excellent. What their preferred activities in the parks, the top 3 are enjoying nature, walking and running, and special events. They're the most preferred activities in the parks. When we asked about what programs they prefer, they see as priorities, they mirror that. They would like more programming in nature, more programming in fitness, and more programs for adults. So optimizing our parks and recreation facilities is another theme, is that figuring out how to make the best out of what we already have is important to this community. So there's a message in that for you as a Parks and Recreation Board. There's kind of a tendency, and I could see it in Lower Makefield, of kind of setting things up a little bit and moving on instead of taking like a whole park development, redevelopment, revitalization as a significant whole, so that you do one big, massive kind of improvement and then move on to the next one. So you do it holistically rather than in kind of bits and pieces. So these are some survey findings, and this is, as I mentioned in the previous slide, that this shows among all the activities that enjoying nature, walking and running, and excuse me, these blues are tough, I just have to say. Special events is the next one in importance. And you could see that dog walking it is among your lowest one, and bringing out of town guests and kind of relaxing, they emerged as the lowest. Playing or watching sports came in 5th. So improvements that people would like to see. We did, now if you all, I know you all took the survey, you saw that there were little comment bubbles. We've gotten, I think it's about 20,000 different points of information from these surveys. We have a lot of comments, pages and pages of Excel sheets, about 25 comments to a page. You'll get to see all of those. The beauty of the survey is we can give you a synthesis of these kinds of answers, which gives you the priorities. But those bubble comments are so valuable. We often find there are comments in there that we never would have imagined that people are saying that are, wow, very interesting, and things that we had never thought of that would really be a good idea in the system. So I think you'll be excited to see the comments that come back. And yep, we're at 2,000 survey respondents, which is notable. And the reason for that is the push that Monica and her staff did in getting the word out that this survey was there and that we're really wanting to have good feedback on this. So no surprise here on improvements. The tall blue bar is improved restrooms. That's not a surprise. That's everywhere. And the second level of improvement is expanded bicycle trails. The third level on this bright spot is open space and natural areas, followed by more playgrounds and pool improvements. So we're looking for, oh, excuse me.
Yeah, I think that
I think the fourth one is more sports
More
fields.
sports fields. It's more sports fields. Thank you. There we go. Okay. Next one is what kinds
Can
of
I ask you a
new,
question about that, Ann?
yes, go for it.
Can you go back one slide? Do you
This
find
one?
it surprising that more, improved restrooms would be located across all of our facilities from a park and rec standpoint? So that makes sense that that's so much higher to me, just because it's one of the few things that's at every park. Expanded bike trail is in line with the previous slide and the top 5 things. So when you're then jumping down to the next 2, it's interesting that open space and more sports fields are almost neck and neck on this slide. But on the previous slide, the indication would have been that sports fields weren't as significantly being asked for.
Yes. And what you get, that's why we kind of ask these questions they're almost repeated to get that kind of variation to see where they fit. So here, let's see, the sports field, player watch sports was 5th in what people wanted. It's what they do when they visit parks. But when we ask for what kind of improvements, the more sports fields is 4th. So it's kind of there. Okay, the programs, again, this now here, sports is high. That's the first one. The dark blue bar is what kind of new programs, more sports. And here it chimes in with physical fitness and mental. Now, what kind of new programs on sports? This sports isn't defined as what you may be perceiving as organized sports, soccer, football, baseball, basketball. More sports could be pickleball. Like we saw that in the survey loud and clear. And you know that we can't build enough pickleball courts fast enough across the whole state. So sports is more than organized. Sports can be action sports. We had a focus group last night with a bunch of kids on another project, and they want BMX, pump track, skate parks. There was some other action sport that they wanted too, but that's what kind of the other side of kiddom is, besides organized swimming, football, baseball, that they want these action sports that they kind of do on their own. So here we have the third one is adult programs, which is not a surprise either, and followed by special events and family programs. The school age programs follow next. Okay, this is our little spaghetti chart for you. What to look at is the red line. That's the average of what we asked. If you recall from your survey, we asked you to move these topics above a line to show your priorities in priority order. This is how they fell. The highest on this by far is more athletic facilities. This is followed by more bicycle trails, followed by the township pool and environmental areas. So again, you have that theme that's emerging of balancing athletic facilities with nature and connected by trails. That really defines an excellent, somebody asked before about the best in class kind of system. That really defines a good system, is that balance between, and that's what your citizens are saying that they want. We asked how people would want to spend $100 The spending came out highest on athletic facilities. This is about, out of $100, these folks would want to spend about $18 on athletic facilities. Next on conservation and natural and sustainability, natural areas, which again, there's that balance. And next is the bicycle trails, where their money went. And this is one of my favorites, park maintenance, that you have an enlightened community that actually wants to spend their money on park maintenance. This would be a very important statistic to bring out when you're working on your budget, because as you know, and we mentioned how hard it is to get financial support for park maintenance. I have to say, in a community that has as professional and passionate a management team that Lower Makefield Township has, that problem of getting more support where it's needed is often really much harder, because the quality of the work and the passion of the employees makes those making decisions think, oh, give them more to do, they'll take care of it. That's what happens. It's kind of like give those who do it well more to do. And that's what we see happen in park maintenance. So these findings are really important. So increasing programs and indoor recreation are coming in lower, and mostly because my guess is on the programming, you do such a great job on that, and it's still new. It's still new in your community. Additional indoor recreation facilities is that this is an outdoor community. Although we have not documented a specific need for indoor recreation, we know from talking with Dr. Smith and just seeing use patterns is like people are out there renting gyms and indoor facilities. So you're exporting some of your participants elsewhere. So here's the question. The Snipes track. How would people want to see the Snipes track developed? They have the choices: left as open space, nature-based park with trails, an athletic complex. And you do have people who have no opinion, and a community park for fun and fitness. So if you were to divide this, you would take out the no opinions, and it kind of gets divided into two parts with nature and open space kind of prevailing over athletic and community park, but not by much. This is really close. So again, this is evidence for the pattern that we're seeing, even in moving forward with Snipes, that the township will win if that site is developed for a balance of activities for everybody with a nature focus and include facilities for organized sports. This slide really gives you a clear directive on how to satisfy your community at large. So it doesn't mean keeping it as a tree farm. That's not going to satisfy your community at large. And it doesn't mean plopping down 6 rectangular fields either. That would upset this community. So if that site is developed with a blend of active recreation facilities, including fields and courts for organized sports, with pathways, landscaping, seating, pavilion, playground, a place where you all would want to spend time, that would be a big win for this community. I think that was okay. So we asked people about the big picture. If there was one single thing you'd like us to do to improve parks and recreation in Lower Makefield, what would that be? This is our word cloud. Well, the one that jumps out the most is the YMS, because it's the largest when we drilled down into the comments on that, there were mixed reviews for that. Of course, thanking and appreciating YMS for the valuable service they provide, but they're kind of the organization did receive some comments about of kind of being too pushy or overbearing, and not cognizant of the overall community needs. So they're advocates. They're advocates for their organization. They fight hard for that. And when you fight hard for something, you get mixed reviews. So that's why that came out that way. But as you could see, that the open space, parks, bike path is all mixed in with athletic facilities, more fields, parking, new facilities like pickleball. So this slide really does show the balance here of what you need, along with your support facilities like bathrooms, parking, lighting, that your community expects the full optimization of your parks, from support facilities right through connections with nature beautification, mixed in with all of your athletic facilities. So here's where we go, the strengths. What we found is on your strengths is that parks, recreation, and trails are definite township priority. The public's very involved. Even when I'm not here, the public's very involved. The facilities are clean and safe. That there's high satisfaction with the programs. You have public and private support. You have significant investment in parks. And you're an industry leader. Under Monica's leadership, you will be the first department in Pennsylvania that's certified by the National Recreation and Park Association for optimal management and a park and recreation, public park and recreation system. This is obviously, if you're the first out of about 2,600 municipalities, that's an amazing feat. And I can't even tell you from my perspective what an honor it is to be involved with you in this effort. So the challenge is balancing what we provide for the residents and the stakeholders. That's the theme: balance, balance, balance. Taking care of what we have and doing the best with what we have, upgrading. That we don't have enough athletic facilities, and that we providing diverse opportunities for everyone. When I first opened this survey findings, the first section of comments was cricket, 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 cricket. So we're seeing now we have pickleball, now we have cricket. I haven't seen rugby, but we have people have been talking about ultimate frisbee, the quality of the volleyball team at Pennsbury, the championship soccer, the championship swimming. The diversity is astounding here. You have limited open space remaining, although it is about 1,100 acres, and it is expensive. The community center is undersized for a community center. You have gaps in your trail system, and Snipes has been 18 years in the making. So here's where we get to what we're viewing as a way for you to move ahead. So this is all very drafty, and we're putting it out there so that you can react to it and say, well, I like this and that, and you're off base here. You forgot about this, and I want more of that. So here are the opportunities and directions, is that we need to strive to, we have 9, there's 9. Achieve balance in parks and recreation with opportunities for everyone. Move forward with Snipes as a true community park. Conduct a professional assessment of Makefield park regarding number and type of fields, parking access. And we're advocating that you use traffic counts to support decisions made. Monica and I have been talking about vehicle counters, because there's a lot of talk about this, and you could see firsthand how challenging parking is. And we had a gentleman in a public meeting talk about it taking 40 minutes to get from the back of the park to the front, with great fear of running over kids that are on the loose in the park. So we're seriously advocating a professional assessment of that park, not just how do you add more ball fields, but the layout of the park, the capacity of the park. I looked at your parking lot area is 2.5 acres. It should be at least 6. And some municipalities at the size of your park would be up to 16 acres of parking. And why you would reach those higher limits is because of the way athletic organizations schedule their turnover. They're scheduled to get more games in because they don't have enough fields. Their turnover is insufficient time and results in parking and access problems. So figuring out Makefield is really important. And what figuring out Makefield would do is lead to kind of domino effects. Is that where can we place other fields? Where can we place some fields? Additional, what areas do we have? Will Snipes be enough? If Snipes isn't enough, what about Patterson's 41 acres? If we don't want to do anything there, do we need to buy some land? So you could see how this all ties together. We need a plan to optimize 5 Mile Woods. That's a gem. That's several hundred acres right in this township. And it needs to be optimized. You did a great study for the pool that's kind of being resurrected because it was cut off due to COVID. So implementing that pool plan, we don't want you to do plans that sit on a shelf. We want you to have plans that you could actually carry out. So our goal in this plan is to be practical, reasonable, achievable, but still have a vision. I loved the earlier comment about what's a premier public park system. That's what we want here. So we need to continue working on a safe, connected bicycle path network. Walking and bicycle path. So addressing the remaining open space, it's likely that you're going to want more land. Once you figure out Makefield and Snipes and what you decide you want to do with Patterson. Yes, somebody.
Yep. And on the last slide, the second and third bullets, I get pretty tangible things. What does optimizing 5 Mile Woods look like? Like, what does that mean?
Oh, okay. If you go over there, when you go there, it doesn't look like a premier nature-based park. The house needs improvements, the signage, the parking areas. The trail system isn't marked. There's no signage system. There's not a plan. One of the things that we were talking about was there's a group called ACE, and what they are they're premier environmental educators that you can retain for a 2 to 3 day intensive work session with them, and you put them into a facility with you like this, and they take a look at it and they say, you got a diamond in the rough here. It's a piece of coal right now. Here's how you make it a diamond. And they'll give you ideas on how you could improve that. I mean, it's such a large tract and you don't have a plan for it.
Yeah. So it kind of improve access and improve, I make it a more inviting.
More
Place.
inviting, more useful,
Got it.
more educational, more programming, more revenue generating. We
All right.
did plan for Churchville Nature Center, and 90% of their budget comes from non-tax revenues through programs, environmental programs.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so working with Pennsbury School District, we're really excited about this. And the municipalities within the school district as well. We think there's so much potential there. Monica has good relationships with the people in those communities too. And we want to continue to ensure continued operational excellence. I mentioned this earlier about the excellence of the management of Lower Makefield Township. Everything they do is top notch. I could actually start with the way these meetings are run, to have this township contract with a professional meeting management company that makes sure all of this goes very smoothly. It's just a joy to me. But I see this in every department, that you have operational excellence. Now, with that operational excellence, that doesn't mean that you can't improve that. An example is in maintenance. I mean, they try their best, but boy, when you look at Macclesfield, that it needs help. And that's beyond the capacity of them going out in the spring and rebuilding the fields as much as they can, but due to the overcrowding, overuse, and just the nature of that park, you can't maintain that. So there are and there's will to maintain it better. Everybody wants to be able to do that, but that's a tough thing. So those are the 9 areas that we think offer reasonable, practical, achievable steps for you to work towards that premier park and recreation system that's CAPRA certified. We could give you a laundry list of 5,000 different actions that you could do, but we think that for the purpose of this plan, and how you have a successful track record of implementing plans, that by focusing on these areas, your plate would be full and you'd be able to do this. So that sums up where we are. Is it okay if I stop sharing, or does anybody want to see anything? We could go, I could pull it back up again if we
Okay, by
want.
me.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing so we can talk. So,
Thank
I
you,
guess-
and I appreciate
Thank-
you taking everybody through the preliminary finding. Before I comment, I just wanted to see if anybody, any other members of the board had specific questions for Ann on any of the material that she presented tonight, or for next steps. I have a few questions, but I'll open it up to any of the other members first. Go ahead.
And do you have any data on the demographics of the respondents?
oh, I didn't put that up. Yes, I do. They were like 95% township residents. Oh, I didn't put that slide in. Sorry. They were in the largely 35 to 64 in age, almost equally split among males and females. Many family households. You even got some responses from people in their 80s. I can't think of anything else right now off the top of my head.
It would have been interesting to see kind of that correlation between the responses and then the ages, because I feel like the data that was shown is pretty detailed, but without having any sensibility of who's submitting these answers, it doesn't give you any insight into as we discussed when you and I interviewed, like, to me, this feels like a biased survey, even though it's still randomly generated. You know, if, much like you said, you know, YMS was heavily featured, and, you know, I believe I assume YMS has a big audience, so I would assume would push for that. So for me, and then for the other groups too. So it would be interesting to see if we're getting 60% of respondents are saying nature and 40% saying fields. It'd be interesting to know of the people who submitted, are 40%, you know, families who are still using the sports fields and 60% are not, just to have a better balance and understanding of really what's going into these numbers and this data that's coming out. I think if you're separating the people who are replying from the replies, I think you lose a lot of the meaning behind the data personally.
Okay, yeah, that's a really good point. And what you got were the findings as a whole. I mean, that's such, we're just kind of coming to the end of collections. Actually, we just shut the survey down this week. So the next part of the interpretation of that is to do the cross tabulations, like you said. Like, what do families, what do respondents with children in the household say? What do senior adults say? I think we asked the question about one of our demographic characteristics was play organized sports. How did people respond to the survey who play organized sports? So we'll be able to drill down more for you on that. I totally agree with you that that's vital information to have, and we have it. We haven't called it yet.
Yeah. The other question I was wondering, obviously Snipes is a big part of this. Did the committee that you met with, to what extent will this document, or does the committee contemplate the previously proposed plan for Snipes and how that fits into the, you know, what the report says? Or was that not contemplated at all because this is still the planning doc, so you won't look at previous plans?
Are you I'm sorry, I don't know who's speaking.
I'm sorry, it's Mike Brody speaking.
Oh, hi, Mike. Okay,
Hey,
thank
how
you.
are you?
Good. Thanks, Mike. Okay, we on our advisory committee have not discussed Snipes. We will. We just have an informal advisory committee that's providing support. They're a mix of interests, ages, residents. So we will bring up Snipes. I'm not sure I got the rest of your question.
Maybe this might be more of a Monica or James question, now that I'm thinking about it. Is their role and the role of this document to give us guidance in how we should contemplate developing Snipes with the community? Or is it for them to kind of come more specific? So right here, they give us a broad outline. It should be a community park that has sports fields, playgrounds, pavilions, agree with all of that. Will that committee get into the nuts and bolts of, oh, is that 2 fields? Is that a baseball field and a softball field? You know what I mean? Like the details, does that come out of this? Or does this give us the guide? So when we're sitting here, we're saying, okay, well, we know it should be half nature, half this. How are we going to balance that to, you know what I'm saying?
I think it's option B of what you just said.
Option B.
That group is an informal group with no voting ability. The Board of Supervisors decided that we should come up with a committee internally to have discussion about this process. However, the park board will recommend our plan moving forward to the Board of Supervisors. The detail of Snipes will not be part of that plan, but the idea of moving forward with Snipes would be part of that plan.
Right, with the general guide of what that should be.
Yeah.
Right.
It'll be our responsibility.
Right. And I say that so that all of the different community members, both for and against and with it in different ways, you know, so that everybody can have that voice, not just driven by a survey. Because one of the things I said to Ann is my guess is that the majority of the people that use the parks may not actually have time to do the survey, or may not have made time to do the survey is probably the more appropriate way to answer that. So that's why I was asking that question. I like that. Thank you. And thank you. I know you put a lot of time into this, so thank you.
It's all good. I do want to make a comment on yours. Like getting 2,000 people is amazing. This community's into parks and recreation. Usually, if you get 200 or 300, that's good. You got 10 times that. So, and it's not a random statistically valid survey. It was open to the community at large. We cannot track who did or didn't do it. If it were, a direct mail, random drawn scientifically survey, I'd be able to give you that margin of error on that. I can't do that with this. But that said, when you have 2,000 people commenting, representing how many households, and when you think of what shows up in a public meeting, I mean, the average public meeting attendance is 8, and you get 2,000 people commenting on parks. That's something to listen to. On Snipes, I think you do have your answers on Snipes. That being a balance between a true community park with athletic facilities and trails, loop trails, pavilion, playgrounds, restrooms, to make it a community destination, not just a place that's used from 4 to 8. That's what will get you your win. Now, to push this forward, one of the strategy that Monica and I have been talking about is completing a design. You do have, you had a design that was really upgraded. The design was really improved, but to go back to the drawing board and take a look at what you have and take it through a public process. And that public process would be 2 or 3 meetings that would be open houses to get comments. So you do one public meeting with, this is the concept that we have an open house, have it from 12 to 8. People could drop in and see it, give the comments. You tweak that, make it pre-final design, go back out, do the same thing, have people come in. Then you would finalize it. The Park and Rec Board would recommend that, and your elected officials would review, and they'd be part of the process and adopt it so you could move forward. You could actually position yourselves with this strategy to apply for a grant in June. It's May the 31st. That if you did this strategy, you could apply for a grant in May, the end of May, and then you'd find out soon if you got that, and you could use that to apply for another grant next April. So you'd have significant funding for that park, and any money that you may have set aside for this maybe could be used for other reasons too. So I'm just pointing out that there's a logical process to push 18 years of hard work forward, with the prize being some grant money.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Hey, and I just, it's Michael Blundy. I just wanted to say, thanks for your work and effort in this process. It's done a tremendous job, I think. And I'm blown away by the 2,000 respondents. I think that is a really good number. So, I think we probably got a lot of good information from it. So, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for the time you're putting into this. Anybody have any concerns about anything they've heard?
I don't have a concern, Ann. This is Dennis, but I'll probably make a statement that's the obvious here. But some of the feedback that suggested that we need more athletic fields, I think more specifically, it probably means more athletic field capacity. And by that, I mean, there are other ways to do it other than real estate.
Mhm.
And I don't know if any of that feedback came through. Like you could increase capacity of a field by installing lights, which would allow you to use the fields longer into the evening. So I don't know if that feedback comes out at all, or if that kind of that those kinds of things are considered or talked about when we see the results of this.
Oh, that's such an important point, Dennis. And that has come up. Lighting, turf fields, partnerships, what are the alternatives? And Monica and I actually gave Monica a West Coast alternative for an alternative rectangular field surface that you see in rainy climates that really works, but may not meet the aesthetic that this community prefers. So we're looking at even kind of more out of the box kinds of alternatives. When you think about these alternatives, it really is important to think about maintenance, and more lights and more use of fields requires more maintenance. Even turf fields require maintenance. They are not maintenance free, and they require cyclic replacement. We have already had YMS step up to say that they would contribute to building another turf field. So that is a very serious consideration. That's an important thought. What are the alternatives?
Anybody else have any other questions or comments for Ann? No? All right, Ann, so I had a couple of follow-ups. So first, thank you, and thank you, Monica, and your team for getting all the information out to the public so we could get the fantastic responses that we did. So much thanks to both of you. So next step, so what is the final output of the detailed recommendations look like? So I know you've outlined kind of 9 things, right? So and then when's the timeline, right, for distribution back to the board for our approval, and then to then recommend to the board of supervisors, just so everybody's on the same page for the next steps. So.
Monica, do you want to go, or do you want me to do this? Or?
And I can go. At the March Park and Rec Board meeting, we look to have a proposed plan and a wrap up of all the data. And then hopefully for proposal to the Board of Supervisors after that. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay.
What's the date of the next meeting? Oh, sorry.
It's March 8th.
March 8th. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And the following Board of Supervisor meeting would be the 16th.
Got it.
March, and usually try to get us materials out by the previous Friday. So that would be the 7th, 6th, 5th, like March 4th, and like that Friday, like all I's dotted, T's crossed, so everybody could have it to review prior to the meeting, right?
We're trying our best. You can see that we've been full steam ahead, putting a lot of time in, and we'll strive to do that. But I'm going to ask for mercy at some point if I need it. Okay. But we're striving to meet these deadlines. So far we've been ahead of schedule. So I think we're good. I'm just giving you a heads up. Writing a whole plan like this, it's a lot, but that's what we're working towards. So,
I mean, Monica, if we choose, if need be, I was asked this. I know we have to give public notice if the meeting date changes, right?
well, I want to stick to that.
Okay, I just wanted to ask Monica, like, if we had it, if like she needed a week, right? We had to change, like, when we would have to make that notice to the public.
I think it's 48 hours in advance.
Okay, I mean, that's a lot sooner than like 2 weeks. You know.
Yes. Yeah, it could be 24, but I think it's 48.
In case there's, I mean, obviously we all have to be flexible enough to meet, but if she needs more time, I want to make sure that everybody's given enough time to get the materials so that they can review it, and we can, I don't want to be rushed and have something delivered to everybody, that morning, so that people can't look at the materials and give it the right time and effort to review the recommendation.
The truth is, we want a plan that everybody feels good about, and we're not going to stop. And it has to be right, and it has to be done well, and you have to be comfortable. So that's how it has to be in the end.
All right, Ann. Well,
Thank
there's
you.
no other
Thanks
questions.
for your
Thank you,
support.
Ann.
Thank you. Thanks,
We're looking
everybody.
forward to the next, the final report.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Sam,
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for waiting. It's Jenna, right? Why don't you come up to there's no mic, what happened to the microphones? Oh, there's a podium. Okay, microphone. So if you just,
bring it down to the table.
if you want to sit, you just,
I?
yeah, you can take the mic out and put it there.
How do I do that? Okay, got it.
There's some of us here, and then there's obviously several folks that are virtual at home, so you have to kind of talk to some people at home.
So should I do it like this? I don't know.
You sit, you can sit. If you just state your name,
Okay.
where your address, what troop you're with. And
Hi, I'm Jenna Glenn. I live at,
is that on?
oh, yeah.
On?
Okay.
There you
Oh,
go.
that worked. Okay. Hi, I'm Jenna Glenn. I live at 406 Essex Lane, Yardley, PA, and I'm in Troop 2098 at William Penn Middle School. Well, first I wanted to say thank you for inviting me to be here tonight. I think you all have like packets that like have my slide things. Okay. Yeah. I'm here because I want to build a little free library at Makefield Park or the Lmt Sports Complex or like somewhere around there. Yeah, if you flip to the next page, it says that I'm 14 years old. I'm in 8th grade at William Penn Middle School, and I've lived in LMT my whole life. I've been a Girl Scout since kindergarten, and I'm in Troop 2098, like I just said. I'm in the Sudden Service Patrol, which is basically where we like hold the flags at events. It's for Girl Scouts, and we like say the national, I'm sorry, and we say the Pledge of Allegiance and stuff, like we lead it. I've been in National Junior Honor Society for almost a year now. Yeah. If you flip to the next slide, it says, what is a Girl Scout Silver Award? And it's the highest award the Girl Scout cadet can earn, and only 10% of Girl Scouts do earn that award. It's a project that has to help your community, and it must be self-sustaining, and you have to be in 6th, 7th, or 8th grade to complete this. One of the other things that you need to complete before you can do this is you have to do a Cadet Journey. And for my Cadet Journey, I did an outdoor take action project. I made posters about not polluting sewer drains, and one of them is in the LMT Community Center on Oxford Valley Road. If you flip to the next page, it says, what is a Little Free Library and how does it help the community? A Little Free Library is a take a book, return a book, free book exchange. They are easy access. So instead of going to like a library or buying a new book, you can just go visit one of the little free libraries and find a book there. They're self-sustaining. So once it's in the ground and made, you don't have to do anything to keep it uptaked or anything. It's like a small wooden box on a pole and you just put books in it. And so it's not that much, but a lot of people call them mini town squares, which I think is cool. But on the next slide or the next page, it says that it helps the community by, well, reading improves mental health, so that helps the community. It provides easier access to books, and everyone could use a book. people regularly come to Macclesfield Park and the LMT Sports Complex. So it'd be a good place to like put it because there's a lot of people there. And it could become a routine for parents and children that is there for like sporting events or just have to go there a lot. On the next page, it says that there's over 100,000 Little Free Libraries worldwide. I saw that on the Little Free Library website, but I think that's pretty cool because like a lot of people are using them now. And on the next page, it shows a picture of Macclesfield Park and where I think it would be a good place to like put it. I'm open to anywhere, but still, I just thought, yeah, it's like next to the snack stand and bathroom. So a lot of people would be going there and then they'd be able to see it there. And then on the next page is also the LMT Sports Complex. And they also I have an arrow pointing to the snack shack area and bathroom on that one too. Yeah. So thank you for your time and consideration. Do you have any questions or anything?
Thank you, Jen. I appreciate coming here tonight, and thank you for waiting your turn patiently as well. So this was a great presentation. I'm going to open it up to board members. If anybody has any questions for Jenna.
You said it's a small box. How big is it?
It's like, it could range from like a foot to like a foot and a half or like 2 feet by like the same amount. So
Toaster
it'd be
oven
like a
size, I
square.
think. I think it's like the size of a toaster oven.
How many books does it hold?
I don't really know how many books it holds, but I think less than
100?
yeah, less than 100 books.
Okay.
I've seen them at other parks. There's a couple of little parks in Newtown that have them, and I'd say it's a little bigger than a toaster oven. But they're like, this tall and this wide.
That doesn't help on the screen.
Yeah, I know. You can't see what I'm doing here. Come on.
The size of an
I'd say the ones I've seen maybe hold like 30 books. So I don't know if that's what you guys were thinking for this, but I think it's a great idea. Everywhere that I've seen them, they're super cute, and I love the idea of people sharing books for free. My only question becomes like the maintenance of it. One time we were at a park in Newtown and bees had started building a beehive in it because it's made of wood. So who would be checking on that?
I never really thought of the beehives or anything, to be honest. Okay. Okay, well then, yeah, park maintenance staff. And also, I know you're talking about the size of it, and on the 7th page, it shows a picture of a little free library next to a little girl. So I don't know if that helps, but yeah. Okay, yeah. I will, yeah.
And what's your timing for completion of the project? So from start to finish, like what do you have to do to get this like actually built?
I have to, after I know if it's okay or not, I have to send a thing to like the Girl Scouts and make sure that this is okay for a silver award project, but it should be. And then I'd probably want to get it done in like the spring before summer. That was okay. Yeah.
Have you mapped like the materials? Is his mom and dad building? It's like you have to do it with your troop, or is this a solo project?
It's a solo project, but I also have to be a leader of a group. So I'd have some people helping me build it and like put it into the ground and stuff. But to get like all the stuff, we'd probably try and get donations from some places. And for the rest of the stuff, I'd be fundraising and then buying it. So I'd be making it myself with the help of like dad and mom.
Hope with Bob, right?
Okay, thank you.
And then the books come from donations, like
Yes.
within the troop.
Mm-hmm. We just,
The books would be targeted towards kids, right?
they could be targeted toward towards kids or adults. It really just depends. But for this, it'd probably be targeted more towards kids since a lot of kids are going to be at those places.
But then anybody can come in the way it works, right? Just put a book in, take a book, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of seniors, so you find more books for seniors, or is it any say adults? Not seniors, but not kids, right? You just have bigger letters in the books. So.
Harry Potter.
And you're just looking for one location, right? Either Makefield or the.
Yes.
Do you have a preference, Monica? Either site.
Monica's microphone is not on.
field.
All right, go ahead.
Go, Dennis.
I'm sorry, I've been
Monica's-
talking all this time without my microphone on. I really apologize. Either side is fine.
What was the other one besides Macclesfield?
By the Stoddard snack stand by baseball field.
So I don't have a strong opinion on the fields, but I thought of something immediately when you were talking about the fields. The baseball fields I actually think would be good, but we have one right at the community center. So like it's somewhat redundant just in location. Macclesfield, when I was thinking about Macclesfield, the big thing I was thinking about is so many people come there that aren't from the township to play. I just didn't know if Memorial Park would
There's
be
one at Memorial already.
kind of a better one because there's
There's
a lot
already
of
one at Memorial.
walking, a lot of like it's more of a relaxation. And so is there already one there?
Yep.
I probably voted to approve that too, didn't I?
No,
It was a great idea. That's why I had it. So
That's why it was before.
Yeah.
It was
Oh, you
before your
picked that
time.
one.
yeah, no, exactly.
By the way, Kim, that one is the size of a toaster oven.
Yeah, then I
measure
would
it.
personally think Macclesfield, going back to the original point of, although I do think the baseball field would be a great location, that it's just so close to the community center that maybe it makes sense to continue diversifying.
I'm not sure there's a wrong answer here. I think we're not saturated yet in the township with these. I'm sure there's more opportunities to put other ones in and make them even more convenient to people. I was going to ask Jenna. Jenna, I like the project. People can bring books too, and if they're sitting there with an extra book they just finished, maybe reading a novel, they can just go and deposit it there, right, and leave it for the public to use.
I'm sorry, I missed the end of that.
I don't think we heard you clearly, Dennis. Maybe.
I was just asking Jenna, is the intent that people could bring books and leave them? I know that it gets seated by the Girl Scouts to start it, but if someone had a book they wanted to drop in there, they could do that as well?
Yes, they could. You can leave a book at any time. And if you go there and like you want to have a book, you want to like take a book, but you don't have a book with you, you can always take a book and then like give some books later or something.
Yeah.
It's really just like the.
Are there any other pocket parks? I know like at Cardinal, like where the tennis courts are, and there's a little playground there that's in the neighborhood. So I know are there
Dog
other,
park, maybe.
other
The dog park has
would be
one.
the other,
Yeah.
oh, it
dog
does.
park has one.
Voted for that
The
one.
dog park has one,
voted
and
for
you
that one,
voted
too.
for that, yes. Yeah.
We have a lot of these around here. This is a really great project.
We have three: community center, dog park, and Memorial Park.
Are there any other?
Should we put one at
pocket parks,
Snipes
like
before
whether,
Snipes is built?
I mean,
We could
I'm not
exhaust
opposed
all
to
of- all of
the two that are
locations.
recommended, but I know that like within neighborhoods, I know that other than the Cardinal
Well, Kids
Right.
Kingdom could be a potential another site.
King's Kingdom, right?
I think the two sites she recommended have such high visibility
Sure.
that I think either one of the sites that she recommended would be great. I think Mike Blundy also has a question. He has his hand up. I don't know if you noticed, but either site, as far as I'm concerned, is fine if you feel that you would like to see one in a pocket
I was
park.
just trying to thinking with where there's close proximity to houses and people can walk and then they can take a book, bring, if they're not at the park, right? They can walk in their neighborhood and they come across a book, or whatever we call these.
I mean, I've seen
Library.
people do them in their front yard. In my neighborhood, someone has one in their front yard that you can give and take a book out of. So, people do that. But
Okay. Mike, you had a question?
Yeah, I know. I just wanted to say, I think this terrific idea. Well done, Jenna. I'm fine with Mac. I think Mac would be a good site. There is a little park at Mac by the first pavilion. That might be a good spot for it. So I'm glad you're taking this on, and I think you're a terrific young woman. So
Thank you.
I'm in favor of it.
Any other questions for?
So the spot in Macclesfield, is that like right at the end of that drive, or is that going to be up near the concession stand, or that to be determined?
Jenna, do you have a preference?
I don't really have a preference where in it. I just know that a lot of people go to like the snack stand part where like they could see it there, but it's good anywhere.
Okay, I just wasn't, the arrow was like towards the end of the thing. I
Oh.
would suggest
Oops.
closer to the snack bar if that's.
Yeah, by the
Yeah.
pavilion snack bar side versus the parking lot side, right?
Would the board be opposed to a motion at MAC? And then we can work through the logistics of the site?
No, sounds good.
Any other questions, right?
Oh, but I have a motion.
So let's make a motion, Dave.
All right, I move that we approve the little library, the free library project for Macclesfield Park, the exact location to be determined.
I second that.
Parks and Rec Director.
Do I have a second?
Dennis, second.
I second that.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? None? All right,
Thank
approved.
you.
Good job, Jenna.
Good
Good
job.
job, Jenna.
Thank you. Good luck. Let us know and send us pictures when it's all up and ready.
Go visit.
We'll go visit.
Well, thank you for coming. You're welcome. You did a nice job.
Good job, parents.
College next. Yeah. Exactly.
All right, next on our agenda is participation in joint municipal Earth Day event. Monica, do you want to kind of bring us up to speed?
Sure. Unfortunately, I don't have the document up. I thought I did, but there is a joint municipal Earth Day event at Core Creek Park. That's annual. We have been invited to participate this year. Our EAC would like to participate. So I'm asking if the board might want to assist in that day, even with time at a table or a booth, and we could come up with something that maybe we could provide as part of the carnival fair from Lower Makefield Township representation. A lot of Lower Bucks Parks and Recreation EACs get involved and engage in this, and I think it's a fun way to jointly get together with the other municipalities.
What's the date again of the event?
Like I said, I shut my.
Earth Day. April, what is
It's
it?
the weekend
April-
around April 23rd, 28th. Did I give you the flyer? I'm sorry if I didn't.
It was
23rd to Saturday.
So it's,
April 23rd. Thank you, Mike.
I have it here. Hold on. So Middletown Parks and Rec kind of organizes everything because it is in Middletown Township. They ask us what kind of service or information we'd like to provide, what kind of special requirements we want to have at the event. I'll send this out to everybody. We can come up jointly with what we would like to do and how maybe we could work together with the AC and fill in the holes throughout the day at the booth. Is that, if that's okay with everybody, if you want to participate? Okay, so that's all I have. Earth Day, wanted to bring it to your attention. If everybody is in agreement.
Yep, I think it would be.
I'll just have to work around baseball.
Oh, that is heavy
That's-
season. Yeah, yeah.
It's a
Wait, April
it's a rain or
23rd.
shine event, right?
Generally, these celebrations, these go rain or
Rain
shine.
or
Yeah.
it'll be a baseball rain now.
April 22nd?
Third,
April,
23rd, Saturday.
Oh, Saturday, right, okay. No, Easter. I was asking relative to
Before.
Easter and
Easter's the
then,
week before.
yeah.
All right, liaisons. Do we have, I don't know if anybody's on the line from, at all from any of the sports leagues?
Erica, do we have anybody on the line?
There's nobody on the line.
Thank you.
Mass, do you want to provide an update this month?
I am George Lieben, 1035 Harvard Drive, and current president of YMS. So, real quick, I'll thank Monica again. I did the other night for the needs assessment, and as well, it's been an enlightening project. It's been good to be a part of it. Overall, I would say our current updates, it's wintertime, so we're not doing too much out there except on the turf, but we're going to evaluate what the field usage and what the fields look like as things start to warm up and see what's what. I think we'll have to probably rust some areas of the park again, just due to the condition of the fields. And on a high note, our rec program is currently somehow pacing ahead of the fall, which is unexpected. So more and more kids coming out playing soccer. It's really exciting. We're excited by the numbers. So we just keep beating the numbers every year. So thank you.
George and I have been spending a lot of time together lately.
Any questions?
How's the indoor space?
It's going well. Going well. Yeah, it's nice to have. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, George. All right, Monica, your turn.
Okay, Capra updates. So we are tracking to submit our forms April 11th. So things are moving well. We are working with the EAC on a recycling plan. We have all the things required for Capra already with regard to our environmental piece. However, we're looking to update when the EAC did an assessment of our parks. I don't know if I've already shared this with you or not, but if I haven't, I'm sorry. When they did an assessment of our parks, it was like, we have like a 1 to 12 ratio trash cans recycle in our parks. Yeah, so we're working on a plan of how we can, oh, that's right. We did a preliminary review as a board. We're working on that plan and trying to fine tune it to be something that's very realistic for us as a township to implement over time. One thing that did come up that the EAC is very interested in is composting and how we could potentially participate in composting. So we are exploring. That seems very overwhelming to me, to be real honest with you. We are exploring a potential implementation of a single compost site at the pool. It's just because there's food consumption, it's controlled. We have staff there that we can trade it out. So it seemed like the most obvious spot. If we were going to test it, that would be a test site. So that is something that we are exploring. I'll be bringing something hopefully to the park board in the next couple months. Again, that is not something that we need as part of the Capra process because we do a very great job environmentally in our township, but it is something that would be a great addition as we go through the Capra process. We recognize that there was a weakness. So that's fantastic find. Pool updates, I did provide you with the financials for the pool. We, in our first month, sold $108,000 worth of memberships. We're still getting questions here and there about the membership and how it works. We have a lot of people coming in. It's very interesting whenever we send the newsletter out, we have a lot of people coming in to register. So it's very, we do get a big response on the newsletter, which is a great thing. So
overall, the feedback been mostly positive about the new rates. I know there's some we've heard some about family of 6 versus.
Yeah, we've had phone calls about large families, but overall, most understand why we did have to raise the rates, and a lot of people are actually very happy because they've had small families over the years, and they're paying the same rates as larger families. So it is a little bit of a mixed review, but primarily it's positive, if not positive, accepting. How's that? So it's not really terrible. As far as summer camp, we're kind of getting more and more into a pickle. I've talked about this before. We filled up summer camp in the first day and a half. And we actually expanded it a little bit so we could allow people who could only get into 4 weeks into that fifth or the 6 weeks, so we expanded it a little bit more than what we wanted to as far as space goes. But now we have 26 people on average in our waiting list. So look, right now, we are trying to find a way that we might be able to accommodate more people with space. We've tried a couple of different alternative sites. We've tried the Masonic Lodge, which is not available to us this year. We actually called Gray Nun, which is not feasible. So that didn't work out. It's not in good condition for us to participate. So we're just trying to look at different alternatives right now to see if we can expand. There seems to be a big need for that 13-14 age group. So we are exploring offering a full tween camp as an addition. So just adding that age group in some way, because there are a number of 13, 14-year-old parents looking for their tweens to do. So we're working on that too. So summer camp's huge demand, tween coverage, 12, 13, 14, huge demand, and space is the issue. So
how many, since we sold it, so you sold out, you're
Mhm.
full. So what's the total in a week or in a 4 week, what's the capacity?
So we wanted to have a capacity of 35
35 what? Just
kids.
That's it. So you only have 35 kids in camp. Okay.
Yeah.
Not very big to be.
It's not very big because we do share with the seniors for space and other programming for space. So we really couldn't grow too much more than 35. But we did bring it to 45, which I do feel comfortable with. We were just trying to, we did bring it to 45 in some of the weeks.
We've been in conversations with the school district, like the schools. I remember when I was a kid and I was a counselor, the kids went to camp at an elementary school.
I did reach out to Edgewood being the most obvious.
Right.
But they were not available at the time. I plan to reach back out to them. But we have, like I said, like Ann said, we did talk to the superintendent about some of our indoor needs, and there is potential for partnership in the future. I just don't know that it's going to be quick enough. Yeah. And do
You've got a gym, you've got classrooms.
I did.
Tour Academy is also pretty close. Is it Abrams? Right, yeah, it's in the borough, but it's very close in terms of
Again, like
relative.
St. John's, I don't know if they still use the classrooms, but they have the gym.
I think we did reach out to St. John's also. That was on our list. So we're exploring. I don't know that we'll have an answer for this year, but there is a big demand, and people who haven't registered at all because they saw we had a waiting list, people calling to see if there's still space. So every week is full. Every week has a waiting list, 8-week program. So wanted to bring that to your attention as a demand issue. And then working on pickleball registration software, I know I had mentioned and even put in a newsletter because I was really confident, maybe too confident, that we are going to use Community Pass as software to manage the pickleball. When I went and had the presentation about how it's going to set up and look to the end user, we shut that option down very quickly. So we're looking at a new software. We had a presentation yesterday. I feel really good about it. It's called Court Reserve. It's an app where you can manage and schedule the sites. It seems like a lot of pickleballers already use it. It's specific for courts, and it looks like it might really work. So more to follow on that. But if we do move forward with it, it'd be fairly quickly because March is coming and, pickleball is really going to start ramping up. They would be able to take our current membership, upload into the app, and then we'd be able to give them access. They could really help it make it be a smooth transition. Doug is ready to show his Court Reserve on his screen, but I do feel good about that registration software based on their feedback and what they were saying to me as far as how it operates. It's much better than what Community Pass would have been able to offer us. So I think the idea is to make it as user-friendly as possible, and I don't feel that we were getting that the other way around. So more to follow on that. And that's all I have. If anybody has any questions about what's going on, I'd be glad to respond.
I had 3 questions.
3.
We do compost. Can we check on impact of bugs first? Because the last thing I want is more bugs at the pool while we're composting.
I actually did look into that. We met with a compost professional who lives in the township. Her name is Heather. She gave us a lot of feedback about how that would operate and what it would look like, how often we have to remove it and that kind of thing. So it's essentially taking all the things bugs are attracted to and putting them in one bin and having a little bit more control over it than into the trash.
Also pool related, I'm going to probably ask this every time until the pool opens. Are we close enough to not having to close for an hour in midday?
I wish I had an answer to that question. Lynn's watching the application come in. And we just did an employee meeting, so all the applications are not due yet. Tonight was 46 people participating, which is a very good number. I'm still going the route of no closure. It's my preference to have no closure. So I'm hoping that we get enough staff. It does seem that the rates are people feel good about the rates. They are very competitive with the other pools, or even better. So that's good.
Is there a magic number, like of how many people we need to have?
How many lifeguards? Oh, I don't know that off the top of my head, but yes, there is a magic number. Mm-hmm.
And would you put pavilions in the court recording? If you got a scheduling system, would you put other things into that scheduling system, or is that only for pickleball courts?
It would be just for pickleball. We already have scheduling system for, I'm not shaking it all up right now.
That was an easy one. Yeah. I'd ask you to. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, not saying that it couldn't happen in the future, but we're starting with pickleball first. Yes.
Real quickly on the compost, would the golf course be an option?
Well, I'd have to communicate that with the golf course as a potential option. I hadn't been considering them because I don't manage the golf course, but it could be. Mm-hmm. We do, but it's more like food waste that they're looking at. Mm-hmm.
Those are the only 2 sites technically that in the township that serve food, right? Just the pool and the golf course.
Well, another consideration was the pavilions, because there are lots of parties and events and activities that way. And then how do we educate people about what to compost? Because I'm going to be honest, I'm a little ignorant to what would go into a compost versus not. I would have to learn myself. So how do we educate, and what kind of signage would we need to have? I'm learning a lot, but I still don't know all of the things. There are things that I thought would be okay that are not. And so we have some learning to do too.
If we have recycling, who corrects our recycling mistakes?
That's a big part of the issue. Right now, if there's a lot of contaminants in a recycling bin, our staff will just put it in the waste bin. I'm going to be very honest, because they don't have the time to sort through recycling. So we would have to work on a big education piece and have definitely paired 1-to-1 recycling trash to try to discourage it. But I, at this time, don't see our staff sorting through recycling bins. So, how can we mitigate that is something to be considered as we move through the process. Any questions on the at home?
Dennis or Kim, anything else? For Monica?
No, I just need to learn more about it too, because I don't know a whole lot, but I think it's a great idea.
We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Next time, Dennis, Kim, come on. Oh, there's Michael's back.
Oh, Mike was there.
That might have been my first meeting without making a motion. I like it.
Thanks, James. Thank you.
Have a
very
good
much,
night,
James.
guys.
Good night.